Carl Jung's mind trick. How to trick your brain into liking discipline. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Jim Rohn. What if the secret to loving discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do what you dislike, but about reprogramming your mind to see structure as freedom? In this episode of Spiritual Wisdom, inspired by Carl Jung's profound insights, we'll explore how to train your brain to genuinely enjoy the process of discipline, transforming consistency into an act of self-love rather than self-punishment. Think about it. How would your life change if you stopped fighting discipline and started flowing with it? Comment below your thoughts on what discipline means to you, and let's grow together in awareness, purpose, and mastery. 1. Discipline isn't natural, it's biological resistance. The human brain was never designed for modern discipline. It was designed for survival. Every impulse that pulls you toward comfort, every moment you choose ease over effort, is not a moral failure, but an echo of your biology. Our ancestors didn't need to plan for 10-year goals or maintain focus for long hours. They needed to conserve energy, avoid danger, and seize whatever immediate reward ensured their survival. This ancient wiring still governs us today, silently pushing us to seek rest, comfort, and pleasure in a world that now demands endurance, patience, and consistency. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom reveals that what we call lack of discipline is not weakness. It's the conflict between a primitive brain and an awakened consciousness learning to evolve beyond it. To trick your brain into liking discipline, you must first understand that resistance is biological, not personal. Your brain is wired to save energy because for thousands of years, expending too much of it meant death. But in the age of spiritual awakening, growth no longer depends on avoiding danger. It depends on consciously reprogramming that same instinct. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." When you bring awareness to your resistance, you stop fighting yourself and start transforming it. You begin to see that the urge to procrastinate or escape isn't laziness. It's a misdirected survival mechanism trying to protect you from imagined exhaustion. Understanding this turns struggle into strategy, and every act of discipline becomes an act of spiritual transcendence. The more you observe your impulses with awareness, the more power you have over them. Spirituality teaches that awakening begins when you stop identifying with your thoughts and start witnessing them. When you notice your mind craving comfort, pause and observe. Don't condemn it. Don't obey it. Just breathe and watch. In that space of awareness, a shift happens. You're no longer the victim of your biology, but the master of it. Each time you choose focus over distraction, you're not just exercising willpower, you're rewiring the brain itself. Neurons that once fired for instant gratification begin to associate pleasure with progress, effort, and purpose. Slowly, discipline stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like empowerment. In this process, discipline becomes a form of spiritual training. It's not about punishing yourself or denying pleasure. It's about expanding your capacity for conscious choice. The moment you act despite resistance, you awaken new circuits of courage and clarity within you. Every disciplined act tells your nervous system, "I am safe in growth." Over time, your biology adapts. What once felt like struggle begins to feel like flow. You start finding joy in the rhythm of order, peace in repetition, and strength and consistency. Your spiritual awakening deepens because you're no longer controlled by primal impulses. You're guided by higher intention. Discipline, then, is not the enemy of freedom. It is the path to it. True freedom is not doing whatever you feel like. It's having the power to act in alignment with your purpose, even when your emotions or biology resist. The energy you once spent avoiding effort becomes the same energy that fuels your transformation. When you understand this dance between body and consciousness, you realize that discipline is not about forcing yourself. It's about befriending your nature and teaching it a new way to serve you. Every time you show up with awareness, you are not suppressing your instincts, but upgrading them, merging ancient biology with awakened spirituality. This is the art of inner mastery, the evolution from unconscious survival to conscious creation, where discipline becomes devotion and effort becomes enlightenment. Have you ever tried to train your brain to actually enjoy discipline? If so, share your experience in the comments below so others can learn from your journey. If not, comment, "I will try," and let's begin rewiring our minds together toward growth and mastery. 2. Real discipline comes from design, not willpower. Real discipline isn't born from willpower or bursts of motivation. It's born from design. When you try to force yourself into disciplined behavior, you're fighting your own biology. The human brain is wired to seek comfort, predictability, and reward, not resistance. That's why sheer determination always fades. Motivation, no matter how inspiring in the moment, is temporary because it relies on emotional energy, and emotions fluctuate. As James Clear wrote in Atomic Habits, motivation is overrated. Environment is more important. What this means is that lasting discipline has very little to do with how strong you feel in a given moment, and everything to do with how your surroundings and systems are structured to support the person you want to become. You don't succeed because you wake up feeling inspired every day. You succeed because you've created an environment where success happens naturally. If your space constantly tempts you with distractions, your biology will always win. But if you consciously design your life so that the easiest option is the right one, your brain will adapt. Spirituality teaches the same principle. Transformation doesn't come from suppression, but alignment. When your inner world and outer environment are in harmony, discipline stops being a punishment and becomes a flow. This is how spiritual development truly happens, not through force, but through design that makes the higher path feel natural. Carl Jung often spoke of the unconscious shaping our choices without us realizing it. Discipline, in this sense, is the conscious mind working in cooperation with the unconscious, arranging your environment and daily rhythm so that your deeper values are constantly supported. When your space mirrors your soul's intentions, you no longer have to push yourself. You're pulled forward by design. If you want to wake up early, put your alarm across the room. If you want to read more, place a book where your phone usually is. These small but intentional shifts turn effort into ease because you are no longer battling impulse, you're directing it. This is the true essence of discipline, the quiet structure that sustains spiritual growth. The spiritual journey isn't about resisting your human nature, but understanding it so deeply that you can shape it toward higher purpose. When you work with your biology instead of against it, you discover that self-mastery isn't about force, it's about wisdom. By creating systems that align with your soul, you begin to live with greater peace, consistency, and flow. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes effortless, and what once required motivation becomes automatic. This is how spirituality and psychology merge. The design of your environment becomes the design of your destiny, and discipline becomes not a struggle, but a natural expression of who you are becoming. Do you agree that true discipline is built by design, not by force? Comment below with conviction. I design my life with purpose and discipline. 3. Environment shapes behavior. Choice architecture. Your brain doesn't actually crave discipline, it craves ease. It moves toward what's visible, simple, and within reach. That's why you tend to pick your phone up instead of your book, or open social media instead of your journal. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom reminds us that much of what drives human behavior happens below the surface, within the unconscious mind. So if you truly want to master discipline, don't fight your biology, work with it. Instead of forcing yourself to act against your impulses, reshape the world around you so that your impulses lead you toward the life you want. This is called choice architecture, the art of designing your environment to make good decisions effortless. When you make the right choice, the easiest choice, you turn discipline from a battle into a flow. For example, if you want to drink more water, simply keep a bottle on your desk and in your bag. If you want to meditate, place your cushion where you see it first thing in the morning. You're not becoming stronger, you're becoming smarter. The energy you once used to resist temptation now becomes fuel for consistency. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Every environment you live in is a mirror of your unconscious mind. A messy room reflects scattered energy. A clean, peaceful space supports clarity and purpose. When your outer world aligns with your inner values, discipline stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like harmony. In truth, discipline is not about self-punishment. It's about self-respect. It's not about pushing harder. It's about preparing better. The most successful people aren't always the most motivated, they're the most prepared. They remove friction between intention and action. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on design. When your surroundings invite focus, when your tools are ready, and your environment whispers reminders of who you're becoming, you no longer need to force yourself to act. You simply flow into alignment. This is what Carl Jung's teachings point to. Awareness transforms resistance into rhythm. Your surroundings are constantly programming your mind, whether you realize it or not. The arrangement of objects, the lighting in your room, even the background noise, all of it shapes how your brain feels and what it chooses next. When you take control of this architecture, you take control of your destiny. You're no longer reacting, you're creating. Spiritual wisdom teaches that energy flows where attention goes. So place what matters most where your attention naturally goes. Your goals, your affirmations, your reminders of purpose. When you create an environment that silently echoes your highest self, discipline becomes an effortless expression of your true nature. Discipline is not a test of strength. It's an act of understanding. It's realizing that preparation is the most spiritual form of self-love because it removes unnecessary struggle. By mastering the architecture of your choices, you transform your daily routine into a sacred ritual of alignment between your mind, body, and soul. That's not just productivity, that's enlightenment in action. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how to design your environment to shape your destiny. Because true discipline begins with the space you create around you. 4. Habit stacking. Hacking the brain's autopilot. Your brain doesn't resist discipline because you're lazy. It resists because it's wired for survival. For millions of years, the human mind evolved to save energy, avoid pain, and seek quick rewards. It runs on habit loops: cue, routine, and reward. Once a loop is formed, the brain conserves energy by automating it. This is where habit stacking becomes your secret weapon. Instead of forcing new behaviors into your life, you attach them to ones that already exist. You're not fighting your brain, you're reprogramming it gently. After brushing your teeth, meditate for 2 minutes. After turning off your laptop, write 1 line in a gratitude journal. After pouring your morning coffee, take 3 deep breaths. Each small act piggybacks on something familiar, bypassing resistance and making the new habit automatic through neural association. In spirituality and spiritual awakening, this process mirrors how consciousness expands. You don't leap into enlightenment overnight. You grow through consistent awareness anchored in daily rituals. Just as one candle lights another, each tiny practice kindles a deeper connection to presence. Carl Jung believed transformation occurs not by force, but by integration, by allowing the unconscious to cooperate with the conscious mind. Habit stacking is a practical way of doing this. You invite your unconscious autopilot to serve your higher self instead of sabotaging it. Your cue becomes sacred, your routine becomes intentional, and your reward becomes spiritual, a sense of harmony and control within your day. To make it work, start small. Write your stack as a promise. After I, existing habit, I will, new action. The simpler the new behavior, the faster your brain accepts it. Let it take less than a minute, just long enough for your nervous system to register success. After you close your phone at night, repeat a short affirmation like, I am at peace. After you lock your door, whisper gratitude for the day. Every repetition strengthens the neural bridge between the old habit and the new, engraving discipline into your identity. What once felt like effort begins to feel natural. This is how the mind learns to love discipline, not through punishment or pressure, but through association, ease, and reward. Over time, these small rituals form a rhythm, a spiritual dance between awareness and behavior. You begin to see your day as a chain of conscious moments instead of chaotic reactions. Each habit becomes a doorway to mindfulness, a signal to wake up within your own life. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Habit stacking is precisely that, making your unconscious routines serve your conscious goals. Through this alignment, discipline transforms from something heavy into something holy. It's no longer about control, it's about flow. In this way, the path of discipline and the path of spirituality merge, guiding you gently towards spiritual awakening, one intentional loop at a time. 5. Procrastination is poor design, not laziness. Procrastination isn't proof of laziness, it's proof of poor design. The brain isn't wired for self-sabotage, it's wired for survival. It naturally avoids what feels uncertain, effortful, or unrewarding, because deep down, it's trying to protect your energy. When a task feels heavy, unclear, or disconnected from any sense of reward, your brain simply says, "Not now." That's why forcing discipline rarely works. What truly works is redesigning the system. When your environment and habits align with how your brain functions, action stops being a battle and becomes a natural flow. This is where the 4 laws of behavior change step in. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. To make it obvious, build visible cues that trigger immediate action. Leave your journal open on the desk. Set out your workout clothes the night before. Place your book on your pillow so it greets you before sleep. The key is to remove uncertainty. You're not relying on memory or willpower anymore. You're using design to guide behavior. Then, make it attractive by pairing your new habit with something pleasurable or deeply meaningful. Brew your favorite coffee when you start working. Listen to calming music while studying. Or remind yourself that this small act contributes to your greater purpose. When a task connects with your values like peace, health, creativity, or service, it becomes more than a duty. It becomes an act of alignment with your higher self and your spiritual development. Next, make it easy. Shrink the starting point until it feels almost effortless. Commit to reading 1 page, writing 1 paragraph, or stretching for 2 minutes. Remove friction, keep tools ready, minimize distractions, and prepare your environment for success. The easier the start, the faster momentum builds. You don't need to conquer the mountain. You only need to take the first step with clarity and calm intention. And finally, make it satisfying. The brain repeats what feels rewarding. So track your progress, celebrate small wins, and acknowledge yourself at the end of each effort. Each done moment strengthens your self-trust and teaches your mind that progress feels good. When you apply these laws through the lens of spirituality, discipline transforms from struggle into sacred practice. Each intentional act, whether reading, working, or exercising, becomes a form of devotion to your growth. Instead of forcing yourself, you flow with purpose. The process itself becomes meditative. Cue, act, reward, repeat. In this flow, discipline stops feeling like control and starts feeling like freedom. You realize that procrastination was never a moral failure. It was a misalignment between your design and your goals. Once you align them, the system carries you forward effortlessly, and what once felt like resistance becomes the quiet joy of consistency and spiritual development. Leave your like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss insights like this that help you design your life with purpose and discipline. Type in the comments, "I choose design over distraction." 6. You don't need to like discipline. Just make it inevitable. You don't need to like discipline. You just need to make it inevitable. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This truth reveals that discipline is not about force or emotion, but design and awareness. Most people fail to stay consistent not because they are weak, but because they rely on feelings instead of structure. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that our routines shape our destiny far more than our moods ever will. You don't need to enjoy every step of the process. You just need to make the right choices, so natural and frictionless that they unfold without resistance. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do what you dislike. It's about shaping your world, so doing what's right becomes the easiest thing to do. Your brain was never designed for long-term heroics. It evolved for efficiency and survival. It seeks comfort, predictability, and energy conservation. That's why procrastination is not a moral flaw, but a biological response. When the path toward your goals feels heavy or confusing, your brain avoids it to save energy. The key, then, is to work with your mind, not against it. Reduce friction. Make positive actions simple and immediate. Create cues that guide your behavior automatically. Spiritual awakening teaches that when you align your external reality with your inner truth, effort dissolves into flow. The most spiritually wise people don't rely on motivation. They rely on alignment. If you want to build a meditation habit, place your cushion where you can't miss it and commit to 2 minutes, not 20. If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with visible, ready-to-eat fruits and remove processed snacks from sight. If you want to write every morning, keep your journal open on your desk before bed. These are not acts of willpower. They are acts of design. You are not trying to overpower your brain, but to reprogram its environment so that the right action feels inevitable. Discipline becomes less about pushing and more about flowing. As Jung might suggest, you are integrating your shadow, the part of you that resists change, by giving it a structure that gently leads it forward. True discipline is spiritual architecture. It's not about emotional highs or bursts of inspiration. It's about crafting a system that carries you when motivation fades. When you design your surroundings, habits, and schedule to support your higher self, you transform your life from chaos into harmony. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom: cooperation with your own nature instead of war against it. You learn that discipline is not suppression, but self-respect, a daily ritual of choosing alignment over impulse. Over time, your new habits stop feeling like effort and start feeling like identity. That's the quiet mastery Carl Jung pointed toward, making the unconscious conscious so that your structure, not your mood, creates your destiny. 7. Identity is the root of true discipline. Long-term transformation does not begin with behavior, it begins with identity. When you see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, discipline stops being something you force and starts being something you naturally express. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And that truth echoes through every habit you build. If you tell yourself, "I am the kind of person who does what needs to be done," you're not just repeating a phrase, you're sculpting your subconscious. Your brain begins to align with this self-image, quietly filtering your thoughts, emotions, and actions through it until following through feels like your nature, not your burden. Identity shapes habits, and habits reinforce identity. It is a self-reinforcing loop that builds spiritual strength through repetition and consistency. When you operate from the identity level, discipline feels less like resistance and more like embodiment. You are not pushing yourself toward a future version of you. You are simply acting in alignment with who you already believe yourself to be. Spirituality teaches us that awakening is not about adding more, but remembering who you truly are. Discipline, in that same light, is remembering your integrity in every small choice. Every time you honor that choice, your identity grows stronger, and your habits follow like a shadow. You are no longer trapped in the cycle of guilt and motivation. because you've replaced the endless question of how do I stay disciplined with the certainty of this is just who I am. But identity alone is not enough. It must align with your environment and systems. If your environment contradicts who you're becoming, it will pull you back into old versions of yourself. The disciplined person doesn't rely on willpower to resist temptation. They design their surroundings to support their highest self. They keep their phone away while working, lay out their workout clothes the night before, and create spaces that make the right choice the easiest one. When your environment whispers the same message as your inner identity, your brain no longer wastes energy fighting itself. Discipline becomes frictionless, flowing from the alignment between your beliefs, your surroundings, and your routines. Systems act as the invisible architecture that sustains this identity. Rituals, checklists, and structures are not cages. They are sacred containers that preserve your energy. When you have a system, you no longer depend on emotion to act. You depend on rhythm. This is the secret of all lasting change, to let rhythm replace resistance. Over time, these rhythms deepen into habits. Habits crystallize into identity, and identity becomes destiny. In this state, discipline is not an act of self-denial, but a daily expression of self-trust. You do what needs to be done because it feels right, natural, and aligned with your truth. In the process of spiritual awakening, this understanding transforms everything. You realize that discipline is not punishment, it is devotion. It is the act of honoring the divine potential within you by acting in accordance with it. When your environment, systems, and identity form a single flow, you move through life with quiet strength. You don't have to force yourself to be disciplined. You simply live as someone who already is. And in that alignment between inner belief and outer action lies the truest form of freedom, the discipline that feels like peace. To affirm your new identity rooted in discipline, comment below, "I am becoming who I'm meant to be." Let this be your declaration of transformation. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to continue growing with us on spiritual wisdom. Discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom disguised as effort. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you learn to train your mind to enjoy the process, you stop fighting yourself and start aligning with your purpose. Remember, mastery begins with small, consistent steps that your higher self already knows you're capable of. If this message inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos on transforming the mind and awakening the soul. 7 brutal Jungian truths that rebuild your mind into something no one can break. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Every moment of your life is shaped by the unseen patterns of your own mind. The truth is, most people never rebuild their mental foundations. They decorate their cages instead of breaking them. But the 7 brutal Jungian truths you're about to discover will challenge your comfort zone and teach you how to rebuild your mind into something no one can break. So, as you watch this video, I invite you to ask yourself, which of these truths am I ready to face today? Share your reflections in the comments below. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to awaken. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where spiritual awakening meets the power of the mind. 1. Control the narrative. Power lies in perception. Reality is not ruled by truth, but by perception. In a world driven by appearances, people rarely respond to your intentions. They respond to how your energy makes them feel. That is why those who master the art of perception are never truly defeated. To be mentally unbreakable, you must learn to control your narrative, shape your image, and direct how others experience your presence. This isn't manipulation, it's self-mastery, the essence of spirituality turned into psychological strength. Spiritual awakening is not just about peace or kindness. It is about becoming conscious of the vibration you project and using that awareness to move through life with quiet power. You start by mastering your tone, your energy, and even your silence. Your silence can speak louder than your words, your composure louder than your explanations. The spiritually awakened know that over-explaining weakens the power of their truth. Every time you rush to justify yourself, you silently tell the world you doubt your own worth. So instead, you speak less and allow your energy to do the work. Your posture, your calmness, your gaze, these communicate confidence long before words can. People feel your inner authority before they understand it. In moments of misunderstanding, you don't chase approval or try to convince anyone of your goodness. You understand that perception shifts not through desperate words, but through consistent presence. You keep showing up with integrity, and over time, that steadiness reshapes how others see you. When your actions and your aura align, truth becomes undeniable. This is spiritual maturity, the realization that your energy is your first language, and the way you carry yourself tells the world how to treat you. As your consciousness deepens, you begin to see that reputation is not vanity. It's energetic protection. It is your invisible armor. When people sense strength, they tread carefully. When they sense uncertainty, they push boundaries. So you build a reputation not to impress, but to guard your peace. You refine your character until your calmness commands respect. You stop labeling yourself as unlucky or broken, because your subconscious and the universe listen to every word you say about yourself. Instead, you speak power, you breathe confidence, and you radiate certainty. Through this practice, you realize that perception is not a mask. It's a mirror reflecting your inner alignment. The more spiritually centered you are, the more effortlessly your outer world adapts to that truth. You begin to embody someone who no longer reacts, but responds with purpose. You pause before you speak, breathe before you answer, and let silence reveal the intentions of others. Every choice, every gesture, every word becomes deliberate. And in that calm awareness, you step into sovereignty. If you do not define yourself, the world will define you, and it will not be kind. The power lies in perception, and perception begins within. To rebuild your mind into something no one can break, you must own your story, guard your energy, and walk through life as if your presence itself is a statement of truth. That is where psychology meets spirituality, where the conscious mind becomes a temple, and your reputation becomes the light that no shadow can dim. Have you ever tried to control your own narrative instead of letting others define your story? If so, share how it changed your mindset in the comments below so we can all learn from your journey. If not, comment, "I will reclaim my power," to begin mastering your perception and rebuilding an unbreakable mind together. 2. Detach from emotion. Feel without falling. Emotions are powerful forces, but when you let them control you, they become invisible chains that keep you enslaved to the world. In spirituality and spiritual development, detachment from emotion is not about being numb. It's about being free. It means you no longer allow anger, fear, or sadness to dictate your actions or define your identity. When someone provokes you and you instantly react, they hold power over you. But when you can feel the emotion, pause, and respond with awareness, that is mastery. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you gain control over your emotions, you begin to rule your inner kingdom instead of being ruled by it. You stop living as a prisoner of temporary feelings and start living as the creator of your state of mind. To detach from emotion is not to suppress what you feel, but to rise above the chaos and observe it from a higher level of consciousness. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, but remaining untouched by its wind. That's the power of inner stability. You still feel anger, but you don't let it turn into destruction. You still feel fear, but you don't allow it to paralyze you. You still feel pain, but you don't let it define you. Emotional detachment gives you the ability to see clearly when everything around you is uncertain. It allows you to respond with wisdom rather than react with impulse. And in doing so, you begin to experience true freedom, the kind that no one can take away. This level of emotional control is a key part of spiritual development. It's the practice of transforming emotions into awareness and reaction into response. You start recognizing that every emotion carries a message. Anger teaches you where your boundaries are. Fear reveals where your faith is weak. Sadness opens your heart to empathy. When you understand this, emotions stop being your enemies and become your greatest teachers. You no longer run from them or fight them. You listen, learn, and let them pass through you without losing your center. That is when you truly step into emotional intelligence, when you can feel deeply without being consumed. Detachment also means you stop giving others the power to determine your peace. You no longer depend on external validation to feel complete. You stop chasing approval, affection, or recognition because your worth no longer comes from what others give, but from what you already are. In spirituality, this is called inner sovereignty, the moment you become untouchable, not because you don't care, but because you've learned how to care consciously. Life will still bring storms of rejection, betrayal, and disappointment, but you will move through them like a calm river, flowing, steady, and unbreakable. To feel without falling is the highest form of strength. It's when you cry, but do not collapse. When you love, but do not lose yourself. When you experience chaos, yet remain centered in peace. That's the essence of spiritual development. The art of mastering your inner world so that no external force can break it. When you learn to control your emotions instead of being controlled by them, you transcend the ordinary and step into true power. This is where your evolution begins, where emotion becomes energy, awareness becomes wisdom, and your mind becomes unshakable. 3. Expect betrayal. Trust strategy, not sympathy. Expect betrayal, but trust strategy, not sympathy. Carl Jung once said, Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people, and that is where true spiritual wisdom begins. Loyalty is never permanent. It shifts like the tides of human emotion, bound to change when fear, desire, or self-interest take control. People will promise loyalty when it serves them, but when the winds of circumstance shift, so do their hearts. Betrayal, then, is not a sign of evil. It is a reflection of human nature itself. When you stop seeing betrayal as cruelty and start seeing it as inevitability, you become unshakable. You no longer crumble under disappointment because you understand that not everyone is built to honor what they once swore. Depend not on promises, but on systems, on structure, on foresight, on a mind that plans rather than pleads. A person guided by strategy cannot be manipulated by emotion. They move through life with clarity, not attachment. When you anticipate betrayal, you do not become paranoid. You become prepared. You are no longer naive about the changing nature of human loyalty. And this awareness turns your pain into power. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending on others to determine your peace. You begin to protect your energy, not with walls of fear, but with boundaries of wisdom. Strategy becomes your shield when sympathy can no longer save you. The one who lives strategically doesn't react. They respond. They study patterns, understand motives, and make peace with the truth that people can only meet you at the level of their own consciousness. When you stop expecting perfection from imperfect beings, you gain the calmness of a philosopher. Betrayal loses its sting because you no longer build your worth on the shifting sands of others' approval. You start seeing life through the lens of understanding, not emotion. This is the power Jung called individuation, the moment you stop waiting for the world to stay consistent and instead become your own foundation. The more you expect inconsistency, the less chaos can touch you. The moment you accept that betrayal is part of life's pattern, you step into emotional freedom. You are not shocked when loyalty fades. You are steady, composed, and alert. Sun Tzu wrote, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." When betrayal arrives, it becomes your teacher, not your enemy. It sharpens your awareness, deepens your discernment, and transforms your heart from fragile to fearless. You start realizing that trust is not about expecting others to never fail you. It's about knowing you can rebuild yourself every time they do. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. To remain compassionate yet strategic, open yet untouchable. To understand that expecting betrayal doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. You begin to walk through life like a warrior with inner peace, guided not by sympathy, but by insight. Nothing can surprise or destroy you anymore because you've already accepted the truth of human nature. And when you master that truth, you rise beyond it. You become the calm mind in a chaotic world, a soul that no betrayal can ever break. Comment below, "I trust strategy over sympathy," if you've learned to see betrayal as a lesson, not a loss. Let this truth remind you that real power lies in your ability to stay calm, think clearly, and move wisely. 4. Appear calm, think cold. Calmness under pressure is not just control, it's power disguised as grace. When chaos swirls and emotions flare, your ability to remain composed makes you untouchable. Others lose balance when they can't read your reactions, because unpredictability is power. The calm person commands the room not through noise, but through presence. Beneath that quiet exterior, your thoughts are deliberate, your awareness sharp, and your decisions strategic. You appear serene, yet your mind is calculating the landscape with the precision of a chess master. People fear what they cannot anticipate, and when you move with stillness and purpose, you become a mystery they can't manipulate. This isn't the coldness of detachment, but the warmth of discipline, a higher form of emotional intelligence born from spirituality and spiritual awakening. It's the art of being in control of yourself when life tests you the hardest. To appear calm and think cold means to master the pause between impulse and action. It's in that pause that your true power lives. When someone provokes you, silence becomes your sword and patience your armor. You no longer rush to defend your ego because you understand that reaction feeds chaos, while composure starves it. Stillness is not inactivity, it's observation with intention. While others are consumed by emotion, you're studying patterns, anticipating outcomes, and choosing your next step with awareness. This is how leaders are made through calm analysis, not frantic reaction. Your serenity intimidates those who expect drama, and your restraint exposes their lack of it. In this state of spiritual mastery, your calm becomes a mirror. When you refuse to match someone's chaos, they are forced to confront their own. This is why quiet confidence is dangerous. It reveals truth. When you remain unshaken, others' emotional storms dissolve in the presence of your stillness. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Calmness is that inner awakening, the ability to stay conscious in situations where others sleepwalk through emotion. It's not suppression, it's transcendence. It's knowing that the person who angers you controls you, so you reclaim that control by choosing peace without passivity, strength without aggression. To live this way is to become an observer of your own mind. You notice thoughts, emotions, and impulses as they arise, but you don't serve them. You direct them. You are no longer the servant of your moods. You are their master. Every time you choose to breathe instead of react, you rebuild your mental architecture into something no one can break. Precision replaces reaction. Patience replaces panic. Peace replaces power struggles. And the paradox is that when you no longer need to prove your strength, everyone feels it. Calmness then becomes your spiritual armor, soft to the touch, but impenetrable in battle. So appear calm, think cold, move wisely, and let your quiet presence speak the language of true power. 5. Keep power in silence. Silence is control, and control is the foundation of true spiritual development. When you learn to remain silent, you begin to master yourself before attempting to master the world. The less you reveal, the more others fill in the gaps with their own fears, assumptions, and illusions about who you are. This is your hidden advantage. Your mystery becomes your armor. In a world where everyone speaks to be heard, silence becomes your power. You no longer waste your energy defending, explaining, or proving anything. Instead, your energy becomes centered, magnetic, and self-contained. As Carl Jung said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Silence allows that secret order to rise within you. It is the unseen discipline that sharpens your awareness, strengthens your presence, and separates reaction from response. You begin to notice that words often dilute power, while silence concentrates it. Through silence, you observe more deeply and act more precisely. You start to see that people reveal themselves not through what they say, but through how they react to your quiet. When you stop speaking just to fill the space, you start listening with your spirit instead of your ego. You hear the subtle language of energy, the tension in a room, the intention behind words, the truth hidden beneath smiles. Silence gives you clarity that noise could never offer. It's where intuition speaks and where spiritual growth begins. You understand that not every battle requires your voice, and not every moment deserves your reaction. By staying silent, you remain calm, while others lose balance, and in that balance lies your strength. In spirituality, silence is not emptiness. It is awareness refined into strength. It teaches you emotional discipline and inner authority. Your restraint makes you unpredictable. Your calm makes you intimidating. And your stillness makes you powerful. People who depend on chaos can't understand those who thrive in quiet. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving others control over your energy. You let your actions, your focus, and your presence speak instead. Silence forces others to confront themselves while you remain unreadable and unshaken. You realize that every unnecessary word is a leak in your power, and every moment of silence is a deposit into your spiritual strength. As you continue to walk this path, silence becomes your meditation, your weapon, and your shield. It allows you to preserve your peace while the world tries to provoke a reaction. You no longer chase validation or approval because you have found something greater control over your inner world. And once you have mastered silence, you have mastered yourself, because power is not loud, it is steady, patient, and deeply aware. This is the essence of spiritual development, learning that presence speaks louder than words, and that silence, when held with purpose, becomes the purest form of power. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Remember, real strength grows in silence. Comment below. I choose calm over chaos. 6. Master the art of absence. Constant presence dilutes power, but strategic absence refines it into something magnetic and unforgettable. When you are always available, your energy becomes ordinary, but when you withdraw with intention, you create an atmosphere of mystery, curiosity, and reverence. People begin to think about you more vividly, to idealize you, to feel your absence like a silence between two powerful notes of music. As Carl Jung once said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Your withdrawal is not disconnection. It's order restoring itself. It's you returning to your center to preserve your energy and rebuild your mind into something unshakable. When you step back from the noise, you allow your presence to grow in meaning. You are no longer just a person to be seen, but an experience to be remembered. Absence becomes a mirror that reflects truth. Who misses you? Who values you? And who only sought you for convenience? It filters loyalty and separates depth from superficiality. Those who are aligned with your essence will stay, while those who are drawn to your light for selfish reasons will fade away. In that space, you realize that your worth does not depend on constant validation, but on the strength of your own silence. Absence teaches you that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is not to speak, not to show up, but to let your stillness say everything. Carl Jung believed that individuation, becoming your true self, requires solitude, because when you retreat into yourself, You face the shadows that constant activity hides. This is where growth happens. By mastering absence, you reclaim your focus, sharpen your awareness, and reconnect with the quiet intelligence of your soul. You stop scattering your attention and begin to live deliberately. You transform from someone easily accessible to someone deeply respected. People sense your energy not through your presence, but through the weight of your absence, a quiet, invisible force that speaks of strength and self-control. Humans naturally desire what feels rare, and when you control your visibility, you create value without saying a word. When you reappear, your presence feels elevated, your words resonate deeper, and your energy carries the sacredness of restraint. Every appearance then becomes an event, not a routine. You teach others how to treat you by showing that your time, your focus, and your energy are not for everyone. They are earned through respect. And that is where real power lies, not in domination, but in discipline. Absence, when mastered, turns you from a fleeting figure into an idea, from noise into presence, from being seen into being felt. Your silence becomes your loudest expression, and your detachment your greatest attraction. Like a monk in the temple of his own soul, you learn that in spirituality and awakening, the energy you withhold is just as powerful as the energy you give. As Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." And it is through the sacred art of absence that you awaken to your own inner strength, calm, grounded, and unbreakable. 7. Rule your mind. Rule everything. All power begins within, and your mind is the throne from which every experience is ruled. When you command your thoughts, no betrayal, chaos, or failure can truly shake you, because you've built your foundation not on emotion, but on awareness and intention. Life will always test your mental fortress, but when you learn to discipline your mind like a kingdom, you rise above every storm that once broke you. To rule your mind is to understand that every thought is a soldier and every belief a law. If you don't lead them wisely, they will rebel and rule you instead. Guard this kingdom with awareness, focus, and logic, for they are the walls that protect your peace from being invaded by other people's opinions or your own fleeting feelings. As Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is the essence of spirituality and the beginning of a true spiritual awakening, realizing that nothing external truly controls you until you surrender your inner command. To master this power, you must replace emotion with intention. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means giving them purpose. When anger rises, turn it into clarity. When fear whispers, let it teach you courage. When sadness visits, allow it to cleanse and reveal what still needs healing. Your emotions are not enemies. They are messengers in your kingdom, guiding you towards self-mastery. Yet you, as the ruler, decide what stays and what goes. Every decision, every reaction, every word you speak is either an act of leadership or surrender. Most people allow their thoughts to lead them into chaos, reacting to every impulse. But those who awaken spiritually understand that silence is their power and discipline is their crown. When your inner world is in order, your outer world aligns naturally. The people you attract, the opportunities that appear, and even the challenges that arise all begin to reflect the level of order within your mind. A ruled mind becomes calm, deliberate, and strategic. It no longer rushes for validation, nor bends under pressure. It observes, decides, and acts with intention. You stop seeking control over others and instead master control over yourself. And that self-control radiates power, not dominance, but stability. Others will sense it and either rise to meet it or fall away from it, and both outcomes serve your growth. In spirituality, this is not about denial or detachment from the human experience. It's about transcending the chaos of unconscious reaction. The more you practice awareness, the stronger your inner throne becomes. The more you replace fear with faith, emotion with clarity, impulse with patience, the more unbreakable you grow. A ruled mind equals an unbreakable life, not because pain disappears, but because your identity no longer collapses under it. You become someone the world cannot manipulate, because you understand the true battlefield is within. Once you conquer the mind, you've already conquered the world. To affirm your mastery over your own mind, make your declaration today. Comment below, "I rule my mind," to claim your inner power and remind others that true freedom begins within. In the end, these 7 brutal Jungian truths are not meant to break you. They're meant to rebuild you. They strip away illusions, strengthen your mind, and remind you that real power begins within. When you apply these truths daily, you don't just survive life's challenges, you transcend them. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos on self-mastery and transformation.